Oh, we've got our background front and center.
Look at that, because it's great. It's glorious.
Yeah, check that out. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our new AOS podcast, Podcast to Glory. What do you think of that name?
Podcast to Glory. I should have painted myself green for this.
Oh, yeah, you should have. Yeah. So this is going to be a podcast on Age of Sigmar primarily. You know, we'll do tactics, rules discussions, meta-analysis, that kind of thing. But we're also going to do other games occasionally. A lot of GW news, you know, what's happened on the community in the week since. And we're going to do some other stuff, Mike.
Well, we're going to bring you, voices from the industry, other players. We're going to have tournament experts, faction experts, and hopefully some other guests to come in here and join us from time to time.
Yeah, and I can't tell you exactly when. It's probably going to be August 6th. So in 2 weeks, we'll have Scott Reed, tournament organizer extraordinaire, who's the TO for SoCal Open, for the LVO, this year the Lone Star Open, a lot of the ITCs, West Coast, Southwest region tournaments, the big tournaments. Scott is the TO for those. So we're going to have him on to discuss his thoughts on the General's Handbook 2021 and the battle pack therein, what he thinks of it as a tournament organizer and as a player. He's a good player too. He plays Orc War Clans. I got to play him a couple of years ago. Yeah. He loves to shout out smashing and bashing whenever it happens.
Smashing and bashing.
You can hear him from tables away, smashing and bashing. So it's awesome. And I think he is still number one on Hobby Track for the ITC for
nice.
Probably Orc War Clans, but I don't know if they differentiate out that or just say you're winning. So that is cool. Awesome. And Mike's going to work on some other future guests, aren't you, Mike?
Yep, absolutely. Got some future guests lined up. But hey, if you guys have any suggestions for future topics or guests we could have on, but be sure to put those down in the comments down below. For those of you listening out there in podcast land, or joined us from our other channel, the Grizzled Geek, welcome. You guys are definitely, how this works. Put the comments down. We'll read them all. Good, bad, ugly.
Yeah, if they're live, we might react to them in real time. So maybe answer questions or kind of steer conversations in a certain way if you want.
Yeah.
But let's dive into the news from the last couple weeks from GW. And we're going to go, there's been lots of fluff for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
But some product announcements too. And I'm going to list what's in them. And then we'll talk about what we think of them. Okay. So first off, Dominion is not selling nearly as well as they expected. They're still on shelves pretty much everywhere. You can go to just about any game store and pick up a Dominion box. Dominion box. So unlike Indominus, they didn't sell out and have to print extra. So
yeah,
I don't think they knew that was going to happen when they announced, or then when they cooked up these three other ones. We've got a Warrior box set. These are pretty much the exact same as came out with Indominus.
Yeah.
You take the two factions from the big Indominus box, or in this case, the big Dominion box, and you pare them down and you put them in varying sizes. So you got the Warrior, which comes with the Knight Arcanum, the least interesting of the hero. Cool looking, but least playable of the heroes from Dominion. You get 5 Vindictors. Good, because they are solid. I think a lot of people, especially if they're picking up Stormcast for the first time, they're going to get them. Kill a Boss with Stabgrot, cool model, and 10 Gut Rippers. If you're going to play Cruel Boys, you need them. So
you have to have Gut Rippers.
Yeah, it's good on that front.
No Hobgrots. No Hobgrots. No Kill a Boss on the Beast, which is an amazing model. I think it's awesome. I'm anticipating that right now. But the Killaboss and Stabgrot, Stabgrot he's tied with Potgrot for the coolest model in that whole box. So
I think Killaboss on foot looks cool. I don't think he's nearly as good as the dude on points for points as the guy on the Beast, but he's cool.
My problem with him is you want to build them with a flail because it's a better option, but you want him to have that shield. He's got the cool looking shield. They all have the shields, so you want to keep that shield aesthetic. Yeah, put it on his back. That's good. Yeah. Good plan.
So the box also comes with dice, range ruler, core rules, a warrior edition manual, which I think may be just lore or maybe some of their unit, or I mean not faction abilities. I'm not sure. There's war scrolls, a double-sided mat, and by mat I mean a fold-out piece of paper.
Yep.
And the bottom of the box has terrain printed on the side of the bottom, so you can
like
play
all the
with
box.
the box. Yeah. We don't know how much this is going to be yet.
Dominion doesn't have any of that stuff, by the way. Dominion does not have rulers, does not have dice, doesn't have.
It didn't come with any of that. That's true. The Dominion, I think, much like Indominus, was not a starter set. Right. It didn't give you what you needed to play necessarily, but it gave you what you needed to play if you were already in the game. So, anyways, and that was who it was primarily geared towards. The next level up is the Harbinger, a little better deal. It's got, we don't know deal. We don't know how much it's going to be. Lord Imperator, Gryph-hound, 3 Praetors, who are super good, 5 Vindictors, a Swamp Calla Shaman, also very cool, and a cool miniature. 10 Gut Rippas, 10 Hobgrots, and then all the other stuff. Dice, range rulers, double-sided mat, box printed with terrain. And then there's the Extremis version, which is essentially the same as the Harbinger, but it comes with 5 pieces of terrain, like actual plastic terrain that you can build, and then full rules, whatever that means. Because all the other ones seem to have those thin core rule booklets, pamphlets. So I'm not sure what they mean by full rules. But anyways, there's also a couple of paint sets, one with tools, one with 2 Vindictors, and one with 3 Gut Rippas. I guess those are if you want to practice painting and you don't care, you can ruin these models because they're not enough to make a full unit.
Yeah. And if they follow the pricing of the Indominus versions, it's 75, 145, and 260. So if it follows, because they're roughly about the same amount of stuff, right? The bottom of the box and the other 2, the terrain and the third one.
Yeah. That's a big jump.
The terrain adds the extra cost in the in that big one. I think the best value for these is usually the middle one when you're looking at these, right?
Yeah.
I agree in this case too.
Oh, do you? Okay. Yeah, in the Indominus, I know that the smallest set was the cheapest way to get either the Marines or the Necron Warriors, because the box essentially cost what you were going to pay for them anyways, and then you got the other as a bonus.
Yeah.
All right. Another thing that's been going on in the community is...
Want to talk about Kill Team?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. It. So a new edition of Kill Team for 40K is in the works. The new edition promises total revamp of the rules, blending the best of Kill Team along with Warcry, which I love Warcry. So, Dan in the chat, he's got me in the Warcry. I was like, let's play Warcry. And I'm like, I don't need another game right now. And he's like, yeah, you do. Come on. And now, love Warcry.
Now, for those of you that might worry, it is supposed to be less random than Warcry, though.
It is. It is less random than Warcry, but it's got that same kind of fast-paced feel to it. It has an amazing starter box set with plastic deathcore Krieg guardsman models, right? And awesome-looking orc commandos. I don't play either one of those factions at 40K, but I want all those miniatures because they are amazing. And just to I want to show you this real quick here. Oh no, that's not what I want to show you. 1 second. Oh, here we go. Another thing that they announced with Kill Team is that there's no points.
Oh, I saw that article.
No points. So let's take a look at what that means here real quick. So if you're going into building a Kill Team, right, The big thing is they want to go for balance. So the big focus of Kill Team, balance and ease of play. So which is why they're kind of going towards the Warcry model. And the big thing they've shown here is that there are not going to be points, no points at all. You're going to be able to build forces, right? Based on a lot of options here. So you still have all the options, right? But the days of facing 12 guys armed with plasma guns, is no longer, you don't have to worry about that anymore, right?
Yeah.
So as an example here, we see the for the orc commandos, right? You get one command knob and you can be armed one of two ways. And then you've got 9 different choices here for the commando operatives. And as you see down here, you can select up to 9. You can select the commando boy, the regular one, up to 9 times, and each of the other ones can be selected once. So you get one slasher boy, one breacher boy, one sniper boy, right? Mm-hmm. However you want to build out your team, and each mission will give you how many of these different squads you can build. So, for instance, a guardsman could build 2 squads, as where Astartes can only build 1 squad for a game. Right. Mm-hmm. So as you look at the sheet, you can have up to 20.
I like that option where you can have a roster of a bunch of guys, and you're like, okay, you 4, you're in.
Yep, exactly. You can have a whole bunch.
Is the mission.
It's like in between. It's like for every mission. So every mission, you've got a roster to choose from. I need the burner boy on this one. I need this, these guys, and you can pick them out. And let's take a look at the guardsman one real quick. I mean, don't go into too much detail, but so an Imperial Guard kill team consists of 2 fire teams. So you can have 2 of these fire teams, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's got a list of how they're geared out. And it says, other than a guardsman trooper, a guardsman fire team can include up to 3 of the operatives above. So you can have 3 different, 3 ones that are not regular ones, right? So what do I need this game? Do I need a flamer, grenade launcher, melt-a-gun, or a sniper rifle, melt-a-gun, grenade launcher? What do I need for this mission? Cool. And each one can have 3. So you can have 2 of them. And for those of you like me, I play Death Guard. Look at this. Death Guard, each one has a different amount too. So for instance, if you're a Death Guard player, you can have either 3 Plague Marines or 8 Poxwalkers, right? So the cheaper troops you can have more of them. So those are your choices. They count as the same: 3 Plague Marines or 8 Poxwalkers. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of like this. At first, when I heard no points, I'm like, how's this going to work?
Yeah, they don't have a great track record with the idea of no points. So
right.
But so hopefully it works.
Okay. Right. So, yep, I just want to point that out to you guys. Yeah. Kill Team.
You got another super cool reveal this week.
I did.
That you were super excited about. Oh, Cruel Boys player.
Want to talk about the Cruel Boys? All right, let's pull that up.
Did you? Yeah.
Oh, this bad boy right here. Let's share my screen again. Play nice with me. All right, yeah. Let's talk about this guy here. So,
dude looks so freaking badass.
Cruel Boys, it's the gift that keeps on giving. At first, you're like, you got the stuff that's in the Dominion box, right? And all that stuff was pointed out. And they tacked it in the General's Handbook in with all the regular orcs. So it looked more like, instead of a full-fledged faction, it looked like an add-on faction
right
to the orcs, to Oryx. But the more and more they reveal, the more, realize this is a fully fleshed out faction. We get the trolls, we get all the big monsters and these beasts. And they had an awesome looking boss named character on one of these giant beasts. It looked awesome. And I thought that was going to be the pinnacle, but no. Then they revealed this guy here. This guy is Gobsprack on a Corpse Ripper Vulture Killabeak. Very orky sounding name here. And this guy is probably a god tier character. I mean, along that lines, because this guy he's this mouth of Mork. So he speaks for Mork. He's the only one who can understand Mork's language. He's the only one who can understand. He can understand any language. Kragnos.
He can speak to Kragnos.
He can speak to Kragnos. So he's kind of like, you know, and that gives him a lot of power because people, you know, don't know what Kragnos says. So no one speaks the language. So he can tell him what he says. Oh, Kragnos says this. But how bad is he? So let's take a look at this model here. Because this thing is super detailed out. Some people say there's too much, it's too busy. But not me. I think it's just enough when you figure out who this guy is. I mean, look at the hand. He's got the hand of Mork on his top of his staff, just like the other shaman. The only difference is this hand of Mork is off a Lord of Change. So Lord of Change, he's using some of his magic to keep, because demons, when they're destroyed, go to immaterial again.
Yeah.
He's keeping part of his magic just to keep that around as a trophy. So... and you can see all the trophies this guy's collected. I mean, this is just awesome. And I don't know what he does, how good he's going to be in combat, but he's got an ability called Mork Says No, which is, I mean, pretty disgusting. So each time a unit unbinds a spell, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds, and the spell is unbound on a 10+, he suffers D6 mortal wounds.
So, holy cow. No idea if he's going to have pluses to casting and unbinding. Yeah. I would venture a guess he probably will.
I would bet. Yeah.
So even if you're playing techless, you got to be careful about this dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, just throwing those wounds out there, and that Killabeak is supposed to be a monster in combat too. I mean, it is supposed to be awesome. I mean, he's a leader, he's a hero and a monster.
Right.
So already he benefits from 3rd edition rules, right? Really well, because he's got all the command abilities, he's got the monster's rampage or the monster abilities as well. Yep. Monster's rampage. But he's also got some really cool abilities.
You got to assume he's probably going to be a level 2, maybe even a level 3 caster. So, man, this guy's probably going to be super sweet.
As you can hear, my dog's excited about it.
Yeah, there you go.
But you can also build this guy as just a regular, instead of the Mouth of Mork, you can just do a Killaboss on a corpse of a vulture. And I almost like this vulture head better than the other one, than the special character vulture head. But
I don't know. Scroll back up.
So it's like the horns.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
they're both cool. Don't get me wrong, they're both cool.
Yeah, that's cool. This, I mean, I don't know if this gives me hope or dashes my hopes that the Stormcast special character will have an alternate build.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want? What do you?
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, because Hammers of Sigmar are kind of good. They're one of the better storm hosts, but I would really rather, have freedom to choose and build that character as a not named character, like you have the choice here.
Yeah, but that is true.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to bring us then to our main segment, which is our deep dive segment, where we are going to each week dive into a different Age of Sigmar topic. And this time it seems appropriate with the new addition to dive into army building in AOS 3 and how it has changed and what you need to take into account when you're working on it.
Yeah.
So we are going to look at 5 areas of consideration when you're building an army.
Yeah.
So aside from the abilities of your faction and individual units. So these are 5 things other than you've chosen an army, you've chosen your great nation or your storm host or whatever. Besides that, what do you need to think about? And that breaks down to point cost increase. So if you're an established player, almost all units have gone up in points. We also have reinforcement limitations to consider. Grand strategies, which is that, all important, my army is going to try and accomplish this in every game I play. Then battle plans, the actual playing, the maps you play on, and battle tactics. So let's dive into those. So I'll take the first one, kind of run through it, and then we can alternate here. So points increase. For new players, like we said, this isn't going to mean much, but for established players, the GHB 21 updated point values for all factions, and in most cases, point values went up. There were a few isolated models here and there that went down, like Catacross went down, I think 30 points, which is good because OBR had a few points decreases and a few increases because they are going to struggle in this edition. But anyways, it was a necessary evil in my opinion. The game has become far more interactive, and without lowering the point values, games would take forever. Because we've played 3 games now.
Last game didn't last through round 2.
It was over in round 2, but we still played for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So the game is very interactive, and there's a lot more going on each turn, with people being able to react, with doing heroic actions, with just all the different reactions in almost every phase. It takes longer. How were your armies hit by points?
Not too bad with my point cost. I'm affected more by the next thing than the next topic than the actual point cost. A lot of the stuff, I play Maggotkin, right, and some of those points came down. The ones that went up got boosts from the Techless book, so I'm not too worried about that. And the new FAQ, the new rules form, Plague Bear's got a big boost. I'm not concerned about the point cost as far as that is concerned. Goblins, I play Goblins. I'm more affected by the reinforcement rule limitation than I am by the point costs, because they it's like they balanced out. Like once the Goblin book was released, they brought a bunch of those point costs down with FAQs and the General's Handbook last year, and then this year when the points kind of went up a little bit, but they're still down from where they were originally. So Goblins, I'm not really affected by that much. My cities of Sigmar, they've really wasn't affected hardly at all. If you look at the point costs, like some of the bigger things, some of the stuff that I don't use steam tanks and stuff like that, but some of the dwarf units were affected because priests got a buff.
Oh right.
But I played mostly Empire stuff, old Empire stuff, and none of my stuff was affected. My hero costs and stuff like that. They always had cheap heroes. So those are the 3 main armor. And then I play Sons of Bahamut. And those points fluctuated quite a bit. They used to all be around 475, 490, right? Now they kind of fluctuate somewhat. But none of them, the one that went above 500 points, everything else kind of went down a little bit. So it's still basically either 3 regular giants or a Mega Gargant for 500 points. So a 2,000 point list, you get 4 things around, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So that's, 3 Mega Gargants, 3 regular Gargants, 2 Mega Gargants, 6 regular Gargants, right? Mm-hmm. However you want to field it out there.
Got it. Yeah.
But and then the Cruel Boys, obviously they're new, so they're made for this edition of it. So
right, yeah, yep. So Lumineth went up quite a bit. I think they took what I've heard through a few other podcasters and stuff, it sounds like they took the biggest percentage increase.
Yeah,
a lot of that was Techless going up like 80 points. I
worth it.
I think he's still worth it. I think it's a little bit harsh, but he does avoid the wizards now being able to miscast. He ignores that rule.
Yeah.
He's a hero, so he can heal with a heroic action. He's a monster, so he can take the monstrous rampages. So he benefited a lot from the new edition. So I understand it. But then when you look at Marathi, you're like, really? She's still 660, but he's 740. I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But I believe every single unit went up. Some of them not significantly, 5 points here, 10 points there, but overall it was a pretty big jump. Stormcast somewhat went up. Their new units are a little expensive, a little pricey, but their ballista went up 15 points, which it's still good, so I can't complain too much. It's better than the Lumineth ballista that costs 100 points less.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, and then OBR, Bone Reapers, I already kind of talked about. They largely remained unchanged, or in some places went down, because they are going to struggle with this. But anyway, you will find largely that your armies are going to be 10 to 15% smaller, which will usually equate to one unit or one less hero or something like that. So it's not a huge difference, but I think it makes a difference in the speed of the game. Personally.
Yeah, it does. And well, I will say this: Maggot Kin of Nurgle mortals were greatly affected by this, and not necessarily, but all in a positive way. So, like, all their stuff came down in points, which a lot of it came down in points. There are those that were affected, but like some things, like the Magoth riders, like Moreb Twiceborn, Bloeb Rotspawn, and Ogrot's Demon Spew, I think their name is. Well, these are the characters riding those giant beasts, right? Those all came down in points, right? And they got a buff from the edition because they're all heroes and they're all monsters, right?
Interesting.
So they got, but they came down because they weren't that great for their points. No one took these things, right?
Right.
But now, when you look at the points difference and the buff they get from third edition, they got a big buff, and you look at it. It makes you look back at some of those guys, because I never played Mortals before, because I thought the demons were a better option in this. But now, looking at this new edition, I'm seriously taking a look at Mortals, and thinking about a Blight King army. With adding some of these guys in, because none of them are monsters in combat, right? But there are they got the buffs with it. The one guy's a wizard. The other two are decent in combat, but they give buffs. Like the one guy brings back Nurgling bases every round.
Oh, nice.
Like, oh yeah, here's a Nurgling base. Here, boom. The other guy is pretty good in combat, but he's got what could be like an explosive mortal wounds, because basically he's got an ability that every time he picks a monster, and every time that monster picks up whatever he's attacking, a target, every time that target takes a wound, it takes D3 mortal wounds in every phase. So if you get now he's a monster now too, right? So he could do so if he does a spell, he gets that thing off. Spell that does mortal wounds, then he could charge in and do impact hits for mortal wounds, add mortal wounds to the charge phase. Then in a combat phase, if he wounds them, he can do mortal wounds there.
Wow.
And they all have shooting attacks. He's got a tongue shooting attack, so he could do it in shooting attack too. So this guy could tack on 4d3 mortal wounds to, you know what I mean?
Nice.
In a round with his ability, which, little things like that. I think these rules are going to make you relook at some of this stuff like that. Like I never thought of taking these Magoth riders. Yeah,
that is a good point. With the increase in points in some units, it may make you look at units that didn't really see an increase or very little, or actually went down, and go, should I be taking these guys now? They're much better.
Are they viable now?
Right. So
sadly, the Star Drake is still not. But
no, he's not. Not unless the book
fixes
him.
I don't
understand, man. It is not.
Take one of the coolest models we got.
Yeah, and their point values. I am convinced their points are entirely based upon an ability that can hit 1, 2, 6 units, super swingy, and then let's say it hits 6. Only 3 of those are going to take wounds, because you've got to roll a 4+ to do the wounds.
Yeah.
So best case scenario, you're doing 6 mortal wounds with him. Well, not best case scenario, but on average, on the best case scenario, you're doing that, or nothing with it. So it's he's awful. They really need to.
You're like, this thing needs to be fixed. Just realized we had our background from our old podcast on there, on the last one. We're like, why is He-Man on this? This Age of Sigmar podcast. Like,
that's funny. All right, let's go ahead and take reinforcement limitations there, Mike.
Okay, so with 3rd edition, the number of reinforced units, has been limited. Basically, what this means is I can't take 3 60-man units of goblins. I can only take 2 60-man units of goblins now, which I'm very upset about. But so now you take units in the minimum size, right? All units are minimum size. You don't get a break at taking them at maximum size because there's no maximum size anymore. But if you reinforce it, which is basically doubling the model count for doubling the points, you only get to do that 4 times in a 2,000 point list.
Right.
And then battle line units can be reinforced a 3rd time, basically tripling their size.
So they can be tripled, yeah.
They can be tripled, right? Yeah. So they can be tripled for 3 times the point cost, but they count as 2 reinforcements.
Right.
So you can have a triple size unit and 2 double size units, or 2 triple size units, or 4 double size units.
That's at a 2,000 point game. It varies
at 2,000
point values, but yeah, most tournaments are going to be played at 2,000 points. So effectively, you're going to be thinking 4 reinforcements. And one of the things this does is makes battle line units far more valuable if they are your bread and butter, especially when they're 25 millimeter bases.
Yeah.
Because of the new coherency rules, big units aren't necessarily great because you have to stay, if you're more than 5 models, you got to stay within an inch of 2 different models. So it makes it hard for you to do that giant wrap around with 60 models.
Yeah. And they also fixed some of the, because some of them were, the General's Handbook fixed a lot of things, kind of like Ogre Maw tribes. Instead of like a 2-man unit, taking them in 2-man units, they actually upped it to 4 for minimum size.
I think, that would be the minimum size of lead belchers.
Lead belchers, yeah.
And then I think 4 to 6 was the jump in the gluttons. They used to be in units of 3 or 4. I can't remember which was. Now they're up to units of 6. So it makes it possible with 1 reinforcement point to actually benefit from their special rule of being able to cause mortal wounds on a 4+.
Right, exactly. Because before
it'd be impossible to do.
Yeah. So the General's Handbook did fix some of those.
Yep. Yeah, so double check in the General's Handbook what your unit sizes are. They used to be 10, now they might be 5, or they used to be 20, they might be 10. Yeah. They used to be 3, they might be 4. You never know. So check on those things.
General's Handbook is a must-have if you're going to be gaming. You got to have this information. So
yeah, especially for this new edition, you need it for your new points, and you need it for new unit sizes for some. Not all changed and not lots, but there are a few key units. If you look at your unit and go, how's this ever going to work? Well, check the unit size. It may have changed.
Yeah.
You're like, reinforcements totally screwed me. I can't. They're not even playable anymore. Well, maybe they are. Just check.
Right. I will say this. I want to shout out one thing about, point wise, real quick here. We're talking about endless spells. The scythe kind of got the short end of the stick. Most of the spells were great. The changes are fine, but that thing got reduced, and its point cost went up. I don't understand that. It's still got the limitation of only going in one direction, right? But it dropped its wounds from D6 to D3, mortal wounds, and it costs more now. So I just want to point that out there. Mike, right?
Its only value is in
making people move.
Well, or casting it when you're right in front of them, and you can guarantee that you're going to go over those models in your turn, and then hit another unit in their turn before they have a chance to move. Right. But even then, you're only doing 2d3 mortal wounds.
Right.
There's probably something you could have done better with those points.
Exactly.
I agree. A lot of people have been saying there are a few standouts.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that endless spells suck, and we probably should do a whole.
Yeah, we'll do the whole thing on endless spells.
Because there are some that are really good, some that are crap.
D6 wounds will make somebody move. D3 they might take just to keep the stay in the
just
spot.
To stay where they're at. Yeah.
So
I think you're going to see a lot more minimum size units. So MSU, if you hear that term thrown around, minimum size units. It's going to be only some core, like your anvil units. You're going to have one. Generally, people will have one hammer and one anvil that they're going to increase. They're going to go, hey, I really need this unit to just sit someplace and never die. Or I need this unit to be able to do maximum damage and be sure that it makes it to its target. So if I start with 20 of these dudes, 15 are going to, or 10 are going to make it to the target, and they're going to do the damage I need them to do.
Right.
But otherwise, you're going to have lots of smaller units going around hitting objectives and stuff like that, which could be dangerous, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's I actually apparently added in a 6th area that I forgot to increase my count. But let's talk about core battalions, because these are another thing you need to think about. These, if you are playing matched play and at a tournament or whatever like that, you can no longer use your War Scroll battalions.
I'd say the people I feel sorry for. The people that just bought these Kragnos books, like Teclis book came out.
You're going to be okay.
Nope. Yeah, Teclis came out with some really cool War Scroll battalions. 4 months later, I can't use them, but not as bad as the Kragnos book that came out the same month that the rules changed. Like, those cool War Scroll battalions you got in there? Nope. Sorry.
And to qualify, we are speaking from a competitive sense. We play match play. We don't play narrative very often. Although we are going to we're going to try Path to Glory and see how this new system works. And in there, it's all, there's no holds barred. That's narrative. It's open play, whatever you want to play, you can play those as much as you want. But if you are playing in match play, you only have access to the core battalions. They are basically ways to organize your force. The nice thing is they are free. And they have a number of different abilities. There are 6 core battalions in the core rulebook: Warlord, Battle Regiment, Grand Battery, Vanguard, Line Breaker, and Command Entourage. Plus, the General's Handbook introduced 2 new ones, the Alpha Beast Pack and the Hunters of the Heartland. And I assume that any more seasons of play, which these battle packs are being called, I don't know if we're going to get them only when General's Handbooks come out, or if they will be released as event things like the the Broken Realms or the Soul Wars. What Malign Portents came out after Soul Wars, so those things might introduce new battle packs, which may come with new core battalions. But for now, those are the ones we've got. They cost 0 and provide various benefits. Usually, those are the ability to use one of the new command abilities for free without it having to be issued to somebody. And that is an interesting phrasing. Command point does not need to be spent. A command does not need to be issued. However, they are still receiving a command. So I think the people who are interpreting this as they can have multiple commands, I don't think it works that way. So you can't use hey, I'm going to take this battalion that lets me use all out attack for free without a command having to be issued. I don't think you can then issue them all out defense, because that would be a second command ability they're getting.
Right.
So I don't think it works that way. But anyways, so all of those new command abilities have a battalion that gives them that ability for free. Plus, there's a couple of extras. Battle Regiment lets you drop all the units that you can fit in the Battle Regiment at one time. This is the only way you can get a 1-drop list. And then Warlord and Command Entourage give you an additional enhancement, which is everything extra: spells, artifacts, mount traits, even triumphs fall into that enhancement realm. Or it gives you a free command point at the beginning of one round. You just say, this round I want a free command point. Warlord gives you both. Command Entourage gives you either or. So that's the difference between those two. Alpha Beast Pack's kind of tough because I think it's 3 monsters that aren't leaders. make it up. So a lot of armies will find that difficult to do. And then Hunters of the Heartland is a super useful one because you need at least 2 troops. And we haven't threw this out there because this is kind of the first time it's come out. Troops are anything that aren't artillery, behemoths, or leaders, or artillery. If they don't fall into one of those 4, they are troops. Battle line may or may not be troops, depending on what your army does. So if you are a Flesh Eater Court with is it Grizzled Gore that lets you take the monsters there as battle line, then they aren't troops. They may be battle line, but they are not troops. So
nice.
Anyways, the Hunters of the Heartland.
So what you're saying is, well, getting back to the command ability. So if somebody has an innate ability that says they get this ability, they get to use a command without a command being issued, without using the command points, they still count as having a command?
It depends. If, for example, the Annihilators in the Dominion box, they can, anytime they are set up on the battlefield, they can reroll a charge.
Yeah.
That is not a command ability. They could just reroll charges innately. So another unit could benefit from forward to victory.
Right. But say, for instance, like the Free Guild handgunners, they have a stand and shoot ability, which before, now the ability works the same, but but now it's worded as this unit can receive, if they get a charge within so many inches, this unit can receive the Unleash Hell command without the command being issued and without a command point being spent. Does that mean they cannot be given another command where, like, for instance, the general of the hero, giving them a +1 to hit, +1 to wound?
Although I think he gives that out in the hero phase, and then it just stays there, because what you wouldn't be able to do is pick another unit to Unleash Hell, because Unleash Hell has been used. Even though a command point wasn't required for it, and a specific hero or unit did not need to issue that command, the command has still been issued.
See, that weakens them quite a bit then, because so now multiple handgunner units can't, stand and shoot.
I could be wrong. This could need an FAQ to clear it up, but that seems to be the wording. It also is difficult for Lumineth. One of the Lumineth, here's one of those places where I believe the books take precedence over the core rules. Rules on, like, War Scrolls and things like that take precedence over the core rules, I believe. They do. One of the Great Nations allows you to issue a command to one unit, and if there is another Venari unit, you can issue this command. If you issue a command to a Venari unit, another Venari unit within 3 inches also benefits from that command.
Nice. Okay.
So that seems to override that rule, and they've not FAQ'd it to say, nope, they can't get that. So there might be situations, and that would be a good one to throw out there to, the FAQs, ask GW, hey, can you clarify this? Because this seems to say one thing, but doesn't mean this or this. So anyways, yeah, it'd be interesting to get, when we have Scott on, we'll have to remember to ask him this question. You as a TO, how do you interpret this ruling? Because it's a pretty big deal. Yeah,
that is. Okay, sorry to.
No, that's fine. So, Hunters of the Heartland, they're immune to Monstrous Rampage. So, one of the things you need to do when you're building your army is figure out how is your army going to fit in these battalions. You're never going to not want to take one of these battalions if it works for your army, because they're free. So you might as well organize and get the benefit for free.
However you can squeeze into these battalions, do it.
Now, some people have been tacking into them because it benefits their army. So, for example, if you are an army that is lacks a little in resilience and you need to be able to get defensive buffs off, or you are an Alpha Strike army and you want to be able to hit the army before they can do anything, then you may want to take a battle regiment. so that you set up first and you get to pick who has the first turn. But a lot of people have been tacking into the Warlord battalions.
Warlords are awesome.
Taking as many heroes, max out heroes, you need 6 of them to take it twice. But it gives you 2 extra command points some point during the game and 2 extra enhancements. Those could be extra relics so that you can grab that 5-up ward save from the base. Or if you're a wizard heavy army, you take the spell enhancement because it gives every wizard who isn't unique in your army an extra spell. So if you're Lumineth, I really thought about it. I think my list, I'm going to end up going in a battle regiment, but I thought about Warlord because all of my units are wizards. They would all get to know an extra spell.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for utility, but
you can take the Kraken sandals and the glowy lantern.
Right. Yeah.
Sons of Bahamut.
Yeah. And I think that you're going to find a lot of people, at least in this season, are going to take Hunters of Heartland. If they don't need to drop first, they're going to take that so they're immune to Monstrous Rampage.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Like the Stormcast list I was thinking about, I would definitely have 3 units of, in the Hunters of Heartland because that is super good. You pick your anvil units that you don't want to die and want to just tag things and keep them in place and go, they can't be Monstrous Rampage. You can't shout at them to prevent them from using all-out defense. You can't stomp on them.
Shout is such a sweet Monster Rampage ability.
Shout is definitely very good. But all right. Anything else you wanted to talk about the core battalions?
No, pretty good. Let's move on to grand strategies.
Yeah, let's talk about these. These are pretty big.
These are pretty big. There's one big change to how you build your army list now is grand strategies. Now, this is an overarching objective for your entire army that has to be picked before you make your army. Pretty much, this is what you're designing or when you make your army. But you're going to want to design your army towards this, right?
Correct.
And let's look at some of them here. So, depending on how your army plays. So there's 21 of them, but we're going to talk about.
No, the GHB 21 includes these.
Okay.
There's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them.
Yeah. So 2021 handbook has, General Handbook has these. Sever the head. No heroes from the enemy's starting army left at the end of a battle. So if you're good at killing heroes, sniping heroes, the guy doesn't have many. That's a good one. Hold the line. If any of your battle line units.
Let's kind of discuss each of these as
we go ahead.
Rather than waiting until we've done them all, let's hit them all. The problem with Sever the Head is Archeon, Nagash, Marathi, to a
stuff you need to ignore. Yeah.
Teclis and Croak and a Great Unclean One. You're going to have trouble getting this.
Or 4 Mega Gargant army.
Or 4 Mega Gargant army. Well, it's because they're all heroes. So killing off all of the Mega Gargants sometimes is tough. Yeah. So this one I don't think will ever be taken. Yeah. Maybe in casual games in your own local meta, that nobody takes Archeon or
especially with the buff heroes got in 3rd edition and the emphasis on heroes.
Very tough.
Hold the line. Now it's one I usually always take. Mm-hmm. Any of your battle line units left in the field at the end of the battle. So if you got to kill all. Since how everything in the Mega Gargant or in the Sons of Bahamut army is battle line, you got to kill it all.
Yeah, you have to kill the entire army. That's unique. There are no other armies that do that, but there are lots of armies that are super resilient and have a lot of battle line that. So they can I'm thinking specifically the dwarfs. What are they?
Yeah.
The freaking
Fire Slayers or the
Fire Slayers. Yeah. The Fire Slayers, their whole army other than heroes might be battle line and super resilient battle line. That are like, I can get them all the way to a 4/3 2+ armor save. Obviously the 2+ wouldn't stay at 2+, it'd go back up to 4+. Yeah. But they can ignore a ton of rend and still have a 4+ save.
Or like a Nurgle army that keeps regrowing their guys that are already resilient and get the regrow.
Some undead armies, they're going to want to go with this where it's like, I got 30 more Tech Guard and I've got, Nagash and Archeon, or I've got Archeon and Karatokro, so I'm bringing 6 back every turn. What are you going to do? So this is going to be a super popular one.
Yeah, Hold the Line. The next one is Vendetta, which is far more useful, far more better. We'll see far more often than Sever the Head, right? So enemy general slain, and yours is left on the field. Yep. So, you see those for the ones that some of the armies that you have to kill the general.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is
checklist.
These are ones. These are ones that the people who would consider taking these are the people who are running Marathi or Nagash or Archeon and going, yeah, good luck killing me, and I'm totally going to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I mean, there is still probably a better option for those guys, but maybe not if you're playing Marathi. The rest of your army is kind of a glass cannon, so that might be your go-to if you are playing, Daughters of Cain.
Yeah.
Try and kill Marathi, and while all my witch elves swarm all over you, So, yeah, interesting one.
Yeah. Next, we have Dominating Presence. If more units from your starting army is left on the battlefield than your opponent at the end of the battle. So this is kind of like Hold the Line. You got to have more units on the board, but you got to make sure you kill more of your opponent. So if you're a big combat heavy, if you do a lot of damage, and again, I'm thinking Sons of Bahamut because they can dish out the damage.
Yeah, you got to be playing kind of MSU here because there's got to be more units for your whole army than their whole army. So if you're playing Sons of Bahamut against Skaven, you could have a problem if they run and hide a bunch of units.
Yeah.
But then again, some of those units or those armies that play tons and tons of units, they're probably pretty squishy units. So you got to kind of, do I want to? Yes, I've got 12 units in my army, and most others aren't going to. But can I keep, a good amount of those? I'm going to keep a good part of those alive.
Nice.
All right. Next one.
Next one we got Beastmaster. Any monster from your starting army is left alive at the end of the battle. So again, it's like these are made for Sons of Bahamut.
Yeah, this is another one that it's exactly the same as Hold the Line for them. So you might want to take it just to be different.
Yeah. It's like,
But yeah, this is, Sons of Bahamut. If you're playing a Grizzled Gore army where you're like, I'm tacking into the big monsters, or again, I guess if you were playing Archeon's a monster.
Yeah, Archeon's a monster.
I'm pretty sure the half of Marathi's a monster. So this again could work just as well.
Could work, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we got Prize Sorcery. A wizard from your starting army is left on the field at the end of battle. This one seems...
This is my Lumineth choice.
Yeah, unless you're like someone like Lumineth. Unless your big, nasty Izzard wizard.
Essentially, Lumineth or Tzeentch are the only ones who are probably going to take this.
Yeah. Unless you have like most of your armies.
Most of your army is this.
Yeah. But other than those two, I don't see that used a lot. No. Pillars of Belief. If a priest from your starting army is left on the field, again, unless you're playing like,
probably never will be taken.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't think of anything. Even the ones that have a lot of priests like dwarves and Khorne, they're not going to have that many priests.
Yeah, right? I guess if you're playing Beastclaw Raiders and you take, Huskarls, yeah. They're priests, and they're you put them on a stone horn, so they're super resilient, then maybe, but then why not just take Beastmaster?
Yeah.
Because then your guys who aren't priests also count for it. So there's a lot of these that's like, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but there's another one on the list that does the same thing, but's easier to accomplish. So I feel like there's one more. Let's do the last one, and then we'll kind of talk about our overall thoughts about it.
Okay. So, yeah, last one is Predator's Domain. Control more terrain features than your opponent. Again, I don't see this taking this one a whole lot. It just seems like, because you got to be moving around the board, right? So, you want you're worried about contesting, the
you're after objectives, not
you're after
terrain.
objectives, not terrain, right? So you're not going to be like, oh, I need to keep something back so I can hold this terrain. So
I think there are two armies that might consider doing this: Sylvaneth and Seraphon.
Sylvaneth,
Seraphon can, Sylvaneth and Seraphon can have
they bring the terrain with them.
They can park in it, or bring terrain with them, or can park units in terrain. And something to keep in mind with this one is you are technically required, and I think the tournaments are largely going to do this, to roll up the scenery, the mysterious terrain rules for all of the scenery on the table. Seraphon have one of the builds you can take Seraphon. I think it is Coalesced, where they ignore the bad.
Yeah.
They ignore the bad terrain and don't let their opponent benefit from the good. So in their territory, in the opponent's territory, they don't suffer the bad, and in their territory, the opponent can't benefit from the good. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So they might say, I'm going to use this to my advantage.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to sit in this dangerous terrain and dare you to come take me off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, again, these are worth 3 points, so they can be significant.
Yeah, I mean,
they are
3 points is not.
Yeah, this is equal to 1 turn of fully scoring the primary.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a 6th turn where you judge whether or not you scored all of the points for it. It's an all or nothing, but
yeah.
But yeah, it feels like they wanted to have variety, but that variety ended up just being, well, yeah, but this is a subset of this, so why not just take the better one?
There's like three or four that are going to be used you're going to see quite often, and then
I think you
none of the other ones are going to be
line. If you go to a tournament, I would be surprised if you don't play somebody with hold the line in one of those rounds.
Yeah.
Probably most of the rounds. That will probably be the most commonly taken one. I think things like Vendetta and Prize Sorcery will probably be the next most likely taken. Because if you are Nagash or you're Archeon or you're maybe even a vampire on a zombie dragon, you might go, yeah, I'm going to put everything I can into keeping this guy alive and killing their general. And if I lose this guy, I've probably lost the game. So that's why I invest so much into it. So I'm going to take Dominating Presence. But the point here is you need to be thinking about this when you build your army. You need to, if you're building an army and you find that you've got, I've got 6 units or I've got 7 units. So that's kind of a lot, but it's not a whole lot. I probably can't do Dominating Presence. Well, I've only got 3 battle lines and I took them as minimums and my battle lines aren't great. So I can't take hold of the line. Well, my general's kind of squishy because I needed this dude to make these guys. Well, if you made somebody battle line, they're probably not squishy. But, I needed this guy to be my general because he does this for me. Or, I've got 1 priest and I've got 1 wizard. You need to think about that when you're putting your army together. If you find yourself putting an army where you're going, I can't accomplish any of these, you need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, then you're like, what are you doing?
Too many points to give up. You need to, at the very least, go back to hold the line because this is an objectives game, even more than second edition was. And second edition was an objectives game as well. But this is
even more so.
Even more so. This is about go to a certain spot and survive.
Yeah. All right. Want to discuss the last?
We're gonna hit battle plans briefly, but I did not go through all 12 of the battle plans to go, this is good, this is garbage, blah, blah, blah. But you do need to look at those things when you're putting your army together. So, or if you're putting an army together for a specific tournament, and usually not local ones, local RTTs that are only 1 day, 3 games, they're probably not going to put out a player pack. But if it's a multi-day tournament, they're going to put out a player pack and they're going to tell you exactly which of the 12 scenarios or the 12 battle plans that they're going to use, and you're going to want to go look at those and go, all right, here's what's being asked in each of those. There's these many objectives, or, this thing, there's this special rule. Can my army play to that? Can I go and take 2 of 3 objectives in the middle of the board, when I'm duking it out with, ogres or with Sons of Bahamut? How am I going to perform on that? How am I going to be able to negotiate this battlefield? So there's no specific battle plan I want to bring up and say, hey, when you're doing this, you need to be able to do this, because that would take, you could take an hour going over all 12
strategies for each battle plan based on
correct.
for each breakdown by each army. All right, if you're playing Flesh Eater's Court, you need to on this battle plan
do this, but just be aware that will largely shape how you play. So there are certain armies that are just like, I do one thing and I do it really well, and I'm just going to go do that no matter what the scenario says. But other armies aren't going to be able to make that claim. So make sure you're reading your player pack. Make sure you're checking out and the best thing you can do if you're going to be in a competitive scene is get practice games on each of the battle plans. Just go, I need to, they're going to definitely be using this. I need to know how to play it. Let's play this one with, practice games. So, all right, let's go over battle tactics.
Okay.
I'll explain what they are, and then we'll take turns going through each one and talking about how we can accomplish them. All right. The last thing we're going to talk about here, and probably the most important, is the battle tactics. This is a new thing for 3rd edition. So whether you are a new player or a returning player, this is new to you. And you're going to need to get used to them because they are a potential 10 points during the game. Yeah. You can score 15 on primary objectives in most scenarios. Some have weird scoring, but so between your grand strategy and these battle tactics, you can score almost as much as you can on those objectives. So you got to be prepared to play these.
They can swing the game.
They can, very much so. GHB 2021 has 8 tactics that are different than the ones that are listed in the core rule. And it looks like most tournaments will be using those 2021 General's Handbook battle tactics for their tournaments.
Definitely the tournament package we'll be using them.
Correct.
The season pack.
Yeah, and there is something specific here. Something because we are playing in the realm of Gur, a lot of these will have, if a monster does it, you get a bonus.
Yeah, bonus point. Yeah.
Which can make these even more impactful. If you have monsters that can do these, or your opponent has monsters that can do these, they can swing, because then it's becoming almost equivalent to what you could score.
You can earn by points.
Yeah. So, all right, the first one is Broken Ranks. Pick one battle line unit from your opponent's starting army. You accomplish the battle tactic if that unit is destroying during this turn, and if it's a monster that finishes them off. I think it finishes them off.
Yeah, the one that does it, yeah.
But let's check to make sure that. If it's a monster that does it, you get a bonus point. But whether or not it is I've got the wrong General's Handbook. I'll have to look it up later. I'm not sure if it's I think they have to actually do the killing blow, not just contribute to it in order to, and that at least is the way people have been playing it in battle reports I've seen. So this is probably a mid-game battle tactic.
Yeah.
Once you're in line,
yeah. But it's helped along.
The other ones are hard.
This is helped along by the minimum size units now.
Yep. Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about, not all of his units are going to be big blocks. He's going to have to take some minimum size units in this game.
Correct. You making your army may want to consider, is there ways I can make most of my battle lines double, at least? So that I've got at least 10 guys, or I've got at least 20 guys, depending on how it is, to try to deny. Because not only do you want to plan to get these, you want to plan to stop them. So if you do have that squishy unit of 10 skinks, hide them. Don't just run them out. So you've got to be very careful with how you use screens. Throwaway screens may or may not be valuable depending on your army. Yeah. You may really need them to blunt something so that your really critical units get in and do what they're supposed to do. But if you don't have units that require the charge, you may not want to sacrifice a unit and give up 2 points to screen them. So that's something to be very cognizant of. But though, like you said, this one is almost a gimme.
Yeah.
You're going to pick it when there's a unit that's ripe for the picking. You generally don't want to pick this. You're never going to pick this in turn 1.
No.
Generally, a battle line unit, even if you have the capability of destroying them, one, there's ones that are easier to get at the beginning, and two, you're not going to want to waste time taking out a minimum size battle line unit when you have better targets of opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Mike.
Next one is Conquer. Pick one objective marker that your opponent controls. You accomplish this tactic if you take the objective from your opponent. Bonus if it's a monster. This is going to be, this is a mid to late game pick here. Once you've got everything lined up to what you're going to do and you've planned out to take the objective towards the end of the game, it just adds that extra points on to taking the objective as well. So you're going to see this used a lot as well. But like I said,
this one will be used pretty much every game probably.
Yeah.
Because it's an objective game. You want to take things.
You have to take the objectives, yeah.
You have to take the objectives, so you're going to want to do this.
Yeah.
You're also going to want to plan how, if I have monsters in my army, how can I make sure they're there when I do it so I can get that bonus point?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty critical one. Some people might use this in turn 1 if their opponent extends themselves and they go, hey, I can cripple a unit and take that objective this turn. You might do it. Again, that may not be the best part because there are ones that are easier to get early on, and this is one that you can score at almost any time of the game. And those aren't, I shouldn't say they're not common, but there are some that get difficult to, like once it gets late game, you may never be able to do these things. So,
yeah.
All right, next one, Slay the Warlord. You accomplish this tactic if the model chosen as your opponent's general is slain during the turn. Again, if a monster does it, bonus point. And it is the model chosen to be your opponent's general, not one that the army just says is a general in addition to the one chosen. So if there's a Slaughter Queen heading up a Daughters of Cain army and Marathi is there and you miraculously kill Marathi, that doesn't count, even though she does count as a general. Okay. Again, Slay the Warlord is something you want to do anyways.
Yeah.
So you're going to think about, when's the best time to do that. Here's another thing that's interesting. This is more tactic playing the game than building your army towards accomplishing this. But you may want to hold off killing certain units during different turns to make sure you have the ability to accomplish some of these things. So if you slay a weakened unit and the enemy's warlord in the same turn, you may have just made it harder for you to score points next turn.
Yeah.
So, and knowing that Slay the Warlord is one of the things that you can do, you may consider taking a more hardy general to make it, hey, if you're going to slay my warlord, you're going to work for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a great unclean one and make you pick away at him while he heals every turn.
Yeah.
Literally every turn.
Every turn.
Of, heroic actions and stuff. But
yeah, he gets a free heal. He's got several things that can make him heal and heroic action to make him heal now too.
So there are some good picks for generals that can go, good luck scoring this point.
Yep. The next one's going to be Ferocious Advance. This is an early game, round 1 pick. If you're going to use it, pick 3 different units from your starting army. You accomplish this tactic if 3 units complete a run move within 3 inches of each other. The only time you're going to see this not played in round 1 is for some of those run and charge armies, kind of like if you get like Sons of Bahamut or Idneth or Nurgle, by their tree, if they can run and charge the same turn. So unless you have that run and charge ability, you're probably not only going to see this in round 1. This is
or when you've tabled your opponent and you have a turn where you can go, hey, all my guys run together in the center.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So unless one of those things have happened, this is definitely turn 1.
Yeah.
I can't even see people doing this turn 2.
Yeah.
Because the size of the board now so much smaller.
The room
you are
run.
generally within 18 to 22 inches of each other. by turn 2, you are fully to grips with your opponent. You have to actively work to not be too close to run.
Yeah.
In turn 2.
Yeah. If you got run and charge, you're charging round 1. You're that close to
the monster bonus on this is very difficult because all 3 of the units have to be a monster. So unless you are playing, again, Sons of Bahamut.
It seemed like this edition was made for Sons of Bahamut.
Yeah. Again, Gristle Gore. I guess if Fire Slayer's Magma Droth list, possibly. Or, yeah, there are not a lot of armies that are likely to have 3 monsters that you want to run together.
Yeah.
Like that. So.
Unless you're playing a triple Good and Clean One Nurgle list.
Yeah. Or you're one of those brave souls who still plays Beast of Chaos, and you just throw a bunch of, they have a ton of monsters they can pick, and some are actually really good. I don't know that they're not enough to make up for their shortfalls, but you could have a monster mash list for, Beast of Chaos and have 3 monsters running.
That's what I would run if I was playing Beast of Chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, next is Bring It Down. Pick 1 enemy monster on the battlefield. You accomplish this tactic if that enemy monster was destroyed during this turn. Again, bonus point if it's one of your monsters that kills that monster.
Yeah.
So one way you can avoid letting your opponent score this is have no monsters in your army. But then you're losing the ability to get any of the bonuses. So I think most armies, with the exception, in my opinion, of Stormcast and Night Haunt and Caradron Overlords, most of the other armies have good choices for monsters.
Yeah.
So
and with the focus on monsters in this edition, we're going to see more of them.
I think you will. I think you got to be careful in this season. One of your monsters being killed can give your opponent these 2 points.
Yeah.
Can also give them a point per round as just a general bonus if you kill a monster. If you kill a monster on your turn or in a turn, once per round, you get a bonus point for that. So you have to be careful you're giving up that point. But often the strength of the monsters makes up for that risk. So I think you'll see plenty of monsters on tables now,
and especially if the Cruel Boys are
especially.
Yeah, if Cruel Boys are any indication of how these new armies that are coming out are going to go, they're planning for plenty of monsters in the.
Yeah, I would have loved if Stormcast had introduced in this, because it looks like, hey, you're getting new models. Why not make one of those models a monster?
Yeah.
And then every time you release a new book, hey, and you're getting a new monster.
Yeah.
Hey, here you go. Whatever. Beast of Chaos. Here's your book and a new monster.
And a new monster.
Idneth, here's your new book, and here's a new sea monster. Whatever. That would have been an awesome marketing ploy for this. But hey.
Yeah.
Next one.
All right. Aggressive expansion.
No, it's yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aggressive expansion. Pick 2 objective markers, not wholly within your territory, to accomplish this tactic. If you control both objective markers at the end of your turn. Now, this one is probably early game, or if you've tactically set up for this later in the game. You know, so you got to combine 2. You got to take 2 markers. So it's an easier early game maneuver than it is late game. But
and something important to note. Well, 2 things important to note on this one. 1, there is no monstrous bonus. And 2, you don't have to take control of them. You just have to control them at the end of your turn. So if you already control them, boom, you got it. So a lot of people will do this, like you said, in turn 1, because a lot of the battle plans will start with objectives set up on the line, and that is technically not wholly within your territory because it's on the line.
Yep.
So you can use those to accomplish this.
Move up, take 2 objectives, and you got it. Boom.
And often, because the rules now are, if you are in range of an objective when the game starts, you automatically have control of it. So you've already got control of it. So when it comes to your turn, you can go, yep, I'm going to score this objective. I'm going to move forward. It doesn't matter that I'm not on it anymore. I already have control of them. So, easy turn one, like you said, it is probably going to be the most common turn one pick because, it almost every battle plan pretty much just gives this one to you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, we'll do Monstrous Takeover. Also, if you have monsters in your army, a pretty easy one to do. Pick one monster from your starting army. You accomplish this tactic if that monster is contesting an objective you control and no enemy monsters are contesting that objective. This might actually be a better one to take turn one.
Yeah. Before they get their monsters on you.
Well, and because your monsters want to push up the board. Whereas you may leave guys to hold back objectives while the bulk of your forces move forward, and then you're like, yeah, these guys have these, it's cool, I take that one now. Boom, I accomplished it.
Unless your Sons of Bahamut and kick the objective forward.
Yeah, well, then you might have it anyways. But either way, if you take, if you're Sons of Bahamut or Grizzled Gore or something like that, these are essentially the same one, just one needs you to have two instead of one.
Right, yeah, exactly. Okay, let's look at the last one here. Savage Spearhead. You complete this tactic if 2 or more units from your starting army are wholly within your opponent's territory at the end of your turn. And so this one is late game tactic, or if you have like fast moving army or the ability to teleport units,
or ambush like the Beast
or ambush,
or Stormcast Deep Striking. Now, your opponent can largely screen you out of this turn one if they know you have those abilities. So this is one that's easy to defend against. Depending, some of the starting areas are pretty big, and starting armies are going to largely be a lot smaller. So you may be able to sneak guys in. Yeah. Now, do you want them out of position like that? So like I said, you will probably take this late game, but some armies can get it early if they want to. Just cross it off the list. Hey, here's a hard one that I'm going to take early on so that I can do the easier ones later. Because trust me, as the game evolves, these get harder and harder to accomplish, even when they seem like, easy. Oh, yeah, this should be easy.
I had no more monsters left to do this one.
Or they've got a monster on every objective. How am I going to do the Monsters Takeover? Or they only got 5 of those dudes left, but they're super hardy, and my hitting unit has been worn down. So some of these, like Broken Ranks, and some of these will be tougher to get as the game goes on. They're tougher and tougher to accomplish, which is cool. I think that's one of the best. I love battle tactics. Is great. I think they're one of the coolest new additions.
This makes it a far more tactical game. You've got to pick an objective that you design your army around. Then you have to adapt as the game goes by picking, these battle plan, or the tactics round to round, right? So you not only have to plan ahead and build an army around accomplish a certain objective, you have to be able to adapt during play in order to accomplish these tactics. And I think it's awesome. So it's ways you got to really think about the army that you're putting together. Throwing together a list and jumping in a table, to kill some people, just fine for front of the game, but you've got to actually put some thought into this when you're building your list.
Definitely. And think about the other thing when you're designing your list. Think about how you can deny your opponent some of these. Because if you can deny them some of the easier ones, like Broken Ranks or Slay the Warlord, or even Monsters Takeover, because you've got a bunch of monsters and you can get them on the objectives, or force them to take the easy ones first and then have a really tough time later in the game getting these, you can cause them a bunch of points. You can make them lose a bunch of points.
10 points is not insignificant.
So I mean, when most battle plans, not all, most battle plans have a 5 point per round scoring range, 0 to 5 points. Making them lose 2 is a big deal. They've only scored 60% of the points available. If you can keep them from having more objectives than you, now they've scored only 40% of the possible points. That's a big swing. So that's something to think about when you're.
And you get down close to double digits in points. It's really hard to come back from.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So, well, there you have it. A look at building your army in 3rd edition. A lot to think about.
Yeah. Anything else you can think of we didn't touch on that you're like, hey, you should think about this as well when you're building your army? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of what goes into building your army within your own book. How do my synergies stack with each other? How do my heroes work? What's the best sub faction to take? Those are different things than what we've got.
Right. Here, those are army specific things. The one thing you really need to think core rule wise, the only other thing I would say that you really need to think about when deciding what army to play is how long it's going to take you to paint that army. Like Doug's looking at his Lumineth on the table over there, going, "Oh my goodness, what did I do?"
72. Well, and it's not even a huge army. It's 72 models.
Yeah,
that's a decent amount, but it's not the biggest army. There are
my cities and my goblins are bigger than that.
Yeah, yeah.
So you know what upsets me is I painted 120 goblins last year during quarantine, and I don't need that many now.
You could take some units of 20 goblins to just sit in the back and.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Why would you? But you could.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Cool, man. All right. As we wrap up this first episode, I want to throw out to you guys out there watching, what else would you like to see us cover in these podcasts? Do you like the structure the way it is? Do you anything else you could think we should cover on these? Given that we want to stick to the hour, 60 to 90 minutes range.
60 to 90 minutes.
We're in there right now. We're at 80 minutes, 82 minutes. Yeah. So this is good. This is a good range. This is what
I like the format. News up front, discussion at the end. If you want to be on the podcast to discuss your opinions, let us know that too, right? So we want to have, like I said, we're lining up local players and, people, if you're in the industry and you want to talk about some of the stuff, you go to a lot of tournaments, stuff like that, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Appreciate it very much, guys. Anything you want to say before we sign off, Mike?
No, I think I need to. We're going to update our intro for this. These are old.
Yeah, we need to. We
need more painted miniatures than an intro.
We need to film some more stuff. We made that intro way back when we were like, we're going to cover all these different game systems. And we're like, I cannot afford I can afford the money or time to play that many different game systems.
I think it's like
not that they're not all cool and like
Song of Fire and Ice miniatures in that intro.
Yeah, I mean, and I welcome it. Hey, if you guys want to comment, you're like, hey, I love Bolt Action, or I love Song of Fire and Ice.
We love Bolt Action cool. too.
And if you want, throw us some news that's happening in those, and we'll try and shout that stuff out. We don't want to restrict the news to just AOS or necessarily even just GW. Those happen to be the games we play the most. Yeah. But we both have Conflict 47, or not Conflict 47.
We do.
Mike has a Conflict 47. We both have Bolt Action armies. Yeah. We both have Song of Fire and Ice armies. We both have 40K armies. We both have what's the other one I was thinking of? That was in the trailer.
Yeah, I have Gates of Antares. I have
Lord of the Rings, all that kind of stuff. So we have played all of them, but although the what's it, Clash of Kings, or what's it called? Kings of War? Kings of War,
yeah.
Have not played that one. Very interested in it. I just haven't had the time or money.
Have plenty of the models.
But hey, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, but anyways, Renton, you listen to this, let us know. We'll cover your stuff.
Yeah, we'll cover your stuff. Just hook us up there.
Yep.
Reach out.
All right, guys. Sounds good. We really appreciate you guys following along with us, whether you're live or you're watching this later on. Really appreciate you supporting us. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want to check out our other channel, we have the Grizzled Geek. There's a link for that down below. And there's some links to support the channel if you want down below as well.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough. Share with your friends, please. We're trying to grow the channel. Get that word out to as many people as you can. We would appreciate it very much.
All right. Good talking with you guys.
Cool. Adios.
Bye.